All right, and we are back. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Wagers on Campus podcast. College football. The regular season is over, but the season itself is not. We're going to be talking conference championship weekend, playoffs, playoff implications, our best bets, talking through the games this weekend, and all that much more. Appreciate you guys checking us out. It really does mean a lot. This is Alex Mayer, and it is a two-man show today, myself and Xander. Xander, it's good to see you. How are you doing?
Hey, great to see you. I'm just happy to bring the boom.
Huh, no way. What a Christmas sweater.
Yep. Sydney got this for me as a gag gift, and it'll probably be worn all 20 plus days left of Christmas at some point.
Describe to the audience what is the sweater that you're wearing.
It is AJ and Big Justice of the Costco guys fame, both giving the signature fist pump boom in all capital letters, wearing their Santa gear.
You know, for a lower to middle aged 30-year-old, you do have some pretty good clothing items. Um,
What did you just call me? Lower to
like for
middle
example,
age
that
30 year
retro.
old?
Yeah, yeah, I did. um, like you got that cool Tennessee Volunteer shirt. You got some other stuff too, but
Yeah, that will be
anyway,
burned in the next week or so if everything pans out.
okay, okay. Well, it's good to be back. Happy to talk some ball with you. Before we do, how was your Thanksgiving?
Obviously, bearing the lead, we will talk about it. I will put my hand up, but as of now, we're talking about positive things. So, overall, Thanksgiving was great. A lot of fun times. Spending it in South Florida is great because I'm seeing the weather north, which is horrific to get back into. But we took a boat on Friday, Black Friday, out on the inlet, and it was a wonderful day. A lot of leftovers. This year, I made a pizza dough, and for leftovers, I made a homemade Thanksgiving pizza pie, which was incredible.
Do tell.
Yeah, I mean, I just like use the gravy as a base, use turkey stuffing, and then a little bit of cheese as the toppings, and then after it was hot, did a little of the cranberry because it's not the canned cranberry, actual cranberry sauce drizzle over the pizza. Man, fire way to put down the leftovers, if I say.
Wow. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Good for
How was
you.
your Thanksgiving,
That's
bud?
great. It was good, man. I spent it with my parents in the suburbs of Chicago. I caught a Blackhawks game the night before Thanksgiving. They played Dallas, and Blackhawks played their game of the season. They won 6-2 as a large underdog. It was a frenzy at the UC. It was great to be back. Probably my first game in about 15 years, and just did the usual Thanksgiving stuff outside of that. But very, 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 very enjoyable week. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year, arguably my favorite week of the year, and it didn't disappoint. So
This is
very, very
probably
good.
this is probably a very stupid question, but you can bet on the Blackhawks. You can bet on pro teams, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I just know Illinois has those weird restrictions, so that's strictly to college.
Yep. Just college. You can still bet on the pros in Illinois. Um, we got a lot of ball to talk about. We can start by recapping last week, and then thus kind of recapping our regular season performances. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, a lot of just want to prep for the schedule. So we'll be here every week through the national championship. Um, Obviously, we'll be working around as much as we can for the schedules. As Mr. Mayor, we'll be relocating to Florida, and we'll be very sad to see him leave the greater Tennessee area. But he's still he's still ready, gung ho, to record from afar, bring us all the hard hitting ball knowledge from the college football slate. So that was our plan, and then also transfer transfer window not officially open, but there's been a lot of movement because, of course, the regular season has ended. Everyone that has lost their job or is unhappy with their team's performance has hit the transfer portal so far. Some pretty decent names. I don't know about truly stunning names, but I wrote down a few here just to go over and wanted to hear your thoughts on hearing some of these names. So I'll cover all the quarterbacks. Miller Moss hit the portal, Connor Wegman, Kalen Salter, Thomas Castellanos, obviously, Matt Solka obviously made news earlier in the season. And then Justin Martin, big prospect from UCLA. Wide receivers, Casey Concepcion, big name out of NC State, probably the most stunning, I'd say, in my opinion, so far.
Yeah.
Micah Hudson, Texas Tech. James Cook from Texas. And then we had a few defensive players like Otis, defensive lineman from Alabama, probably the biggest name ranking wise, and then Humphrey out of Georgia. So there's some definitely notable names. What are your thoughts when you see those hit the timeline?
Um, Miller Moss, I thought his response was really classy. Basically, just his uh, just his thank you to USC, and he's a good player in my opinion. So he'll definitely be highly coveted. I agree with you about Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver from NC State. He's a really good player. I don't blame him. I don't. I don't blame him at all. NC State had very, very big expectations this year. He, the team did not fulfill those expectations, and you only get so many years in college ball, and he's already played 2 seasons with them. So in this day, uh, I don't think he's doing anything wrong. I don't think you can be too upset with him. And Wegman, I don't really know the details there, but if they're planning on running it back with Marcel Reed, which I definitely think A&M should, because Marcel Reed, I really like what I see from him, then I don't blame Wegman at all either. So
Yeah. Yeah, I just have a terrible feeling in my stomach about Concepcion. He's going to go to Georgia or Alabama, and he's going to absolutely dominate and be a thorn in the nation's side, especially if he's there at Bama with Ryan Williams on the other side. Man, not thrilled to see that name hit the portal because he's going to do some damage.
yeah, he definitely will. It'll be interesting, as it always will be, moving forward to see how it all shakes out. But you're not kidding. Pretty big names just right as the season concludes, and I would expect to see more as we move forward. Recapping last week's bets. So Nate went 16-11. Really good week for Nate. He finished the season at 146, 148, and 1. That's right. He was one game away from being 500. He finished at a 49.7% winning percentage. Myself, 8-5 on the week. I'll take that any day. Season record of 79-69. My winning percentage at 53.4%. And then Xander, 12-8-1 last week, a good week from yourself. Put your season record at 161, 148-2. That puts your percentage at 52.1%. Cumulatively, as a podcast, we hit a little bit above 51% on the regular season. So if you're ever wondering to place one of our bets and you had no other context than just what we're saying, you would be better off to place our bets than to fade them. As far as locks go, Nate and I finished the year at 10-4. That's pretty stellar. Very happy with a 10-4 record on the locks. And then Xander finishes 7-7 for the regular season on his locks. What could possibly go wrong? Parlay of the week hit last week. That's correct. That's right. It hit. Puts the season record at 2-12. However, up 10 units. So Burns is what could possibly go wrong. Parlay of the week turns out to be profitable on the season. And then something that we started to do a little bit kind of into the season was the quad box parlay. And the quad box parlay hit. It finished the year 3-7, up 3-7, up 18.5 units on the quad box parlay. Burns rolled out that idea somewhere around week 4 or week 5, where you just pick a certain time slot of games. So, for example, you pick 4 games in the 2:30 p.m. time slot, where you can put all 4 games on your quad box on YouTube TV and have a parlay. And we won 18.5 units on that shit. So we did a great job with that. And then as far as the locks parlay goes this year, we went 4-10, but that profited you 10 units. So we did pretty damn good with those 3 things. The only thing that we absolutely sucked on, which is hilarious because you would think that this would be the thing that we were best on, was our teaser. We went 1-13 on our teasers this year, cumulatively down 8 units. Yikes. However, when you combine our teasers and our parlays together, we were up 30.5 units on the season. Thoughts, Burns?
Man, it's incredible. Those are some astounding numbers. What's the point of putting out all these huge cards? And you can just place 4 bets every week. The three parlays and the teaser. And $100 better is up like over $3,000. I'd say that's a pretty profitable season.
Yeah. And you, with your Maction plays, you finished the year in Maction at 32-16, as you wrote an otherworldly 66.7% against the spread and totals. That's the second year in a row that you have absolutely cleaned up in Maction. Because I believe last season you went 29-14, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think it was 29-16, right at like I appreciate you giving me a better record, but I think there were a couple losses at the end, but a 60, close to 65%, 60, almost 67% this year. What the hell am I doing betting on the weekends? Just take our parlays, do Maction during the week, and I'd be selling these picks, and Vegas would be banning me from the books.
Yeah. Yeah, you have been outstanding. That's all you can really say. Basically 66% over the last 2 years in Maction. Maybe something to think about next year. I don't know what you do as far as your wagers go, but maybe upping the amount on those Maction plays.
That's a good point, because I was pretty worried this week, to be honest. The board scared me. It spread out. It wasn't just your Tuesday, Wednesday. It was Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and went 5-1. And as you read from our weekly, once again for the 3rd week in a row, Mac carries my overall record. So the Saturday record was right at 500, and 5-1 on the Mac this week took me 4 games above 500.
Yeah, that's great. As far as bet regrets go, taking a look just from last week, Tennessee Vanderbilt, I had the under 48.5. I don't regret that bet. Vanderbilt had some fluky touchdowns, and that game was just kind of fluky in general. Sometimes that'll happen. So no regrets in that one for me. Pitt plus 5.5 against Boston College. They had a chance, just didn't get it done. Maryland, Penn State under 50.5. Oh my God. Did you see the end of that game?
Yes. Yeah. Brutal
So
on you, man. Brutal.
James James Franklin could have taken a knee to end the game when the score was
37-7.
the score was 37-7. Penn State had the ball. He could have taken a knee. Instead, he decides to start calling timeouts and throwing shots to the end zone. And on the final play of the game, it's 4th and goal from about the 13-yard line, and Penn State's backups hit the touchdown on 4th and goal from the 13, pushing the over by a half a point, therefore making my underplay a loser. So that was a very, very tough beat. I don't regret the pick, though. Auburn plus 11.5. What can you even say? Auburn at one point in that game against Alabama was leading the turnover battle 4-0, and somehow they didn't cover 11.5. I don't know what to say. And then Oklahoma plus 6. Yeah, that was a bad bet. They had their Super Bowl against Alabama the week before. LSU easily dispatched Oklahoma, so that was a bad bet. My lock, Louisville minus 3.5 against Kentucky. Man, talk about an absolute ass kicking. Louisville just absolutely shit pumped Kentucky. That was a great feeling to have that one as my lock.
Big time. I only have one regret, and that's I have two. But the first regret is not noticing. Once again, you brought up Auburn. All three of us were on Auburn. I mean, it's the squad ride curse on this podcast. It's crazy how many times. I mean, we've got to be batting. I'm not even kidding. Like 26% against the spread over unders when all three
Yeah,
of us have a play on the card that is the same. So that was one that hit the card. And then my only Maction loss. It's my biggest regret this week. It was Toledo -8 to fucking Akron. And they lost in overtime. On Tuesday, we just get into Florida. We're watching it. Kicker misses 3 field goals, one at the buzzer to win it from 26 yards. Doesn't even, yeah, he just missed it. He just missed it. It was ultimate Maction. Toledo didn't let our Akron pass the 50 more than twice, and both times they scored. So it was it was a joy to watch. It was a key indicator of what my weekend was about to become when it came to football.
sure was. Sure was. So where do we go from here, Burns?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Mayor. As we're doing a little recap, I pulled all of our preseason numbers, and they went pretty well. Everything finalized. Clemson kind of fucked you there at the end, but covering a few of these, Nate went 3-1 on season total bets. I went a crisp 5-5 on season total bets. My max season totals ended at 8-4. I had Akron marked it as a win, under 3.5 wins. Oh, will I never learn? Will I never learn? That win against Toledo got him to 4. That was a tough mark to move the L to a W, or I'm sorry, a W to an L. But Ball State lost, so I avoided the push, and Miami won, so I got that over. From a team, I had over 7.5 wins. They started the season 1-4. They had to win out to cash that over bet. So shout out to Miami Redhawks. Mayor went 1-2-1. Clemson pushed for you. Jackson Dart had some legs for a while. Heisman then kind of fell off. Obviously, the loss to Kentucky was not helpful. Dylan Gabriel just never had enough flashy numbers for Nate's Heisman future. And then I had all three of my Heisman alive until the last weekend where Will Howard crashed out. Cam Ward is going to be invited 15-1, but we think Travis Hunter, it's his to lose. minus 10,000 last time I checked. Got him at 50-1, and then Luther Burden 80-1. That's a
Wow.
throwaway unit.
50 to
Uh,
1 on Travis Hunter. What a
yeah,
bet.
yep. And then we are make playoffs bets. I've got USC, UTSA, and Syracuse all L's, but I'm holding on to Boise 4-1. So that would be 54 units. And then Ohio State 4-1 is my only championship bet alive, as we see hit Oklahoma and Missouri in there.
Sometimes that's the way it goes.
You're not going to hit 80-1 long. I think we're going to find out anything over 40-1 next season is just you're pissing away money to win a national championship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, overall, ton of money that we made. I think because of your Hunter pick at 50 to 1. We're going to be very, very profitable as a group because of that play.
Yep. And there's the Mac. And then just lastly, before we get into top 25, just final recap of what we're looking in going into for the championship weekend. We all had Ohio State to win the Big Ten. That's a big X for all three of us. Our Big 12 is also horrifically bad, with Mayer taking Kansas State, Nate taking Oklahoma State, and myself taking Utah. Woo, couldn't be more off there. Nate and I head to head in the SEC championship. I had Texas preseason. He had Georgia. Alex had Ole Miss, was very alive until Florida debacle. And then Alex and I alive in the ACC both had Clemson to win the ACC preseason. Nate with Miami. We'll get into it, but a pretty just terrible defensive performance to wrap up pretty much the summation of their season. None of us with the pick on the AAC. Mayor and Nate both with Memphis. Myself, UTSA, puke. Myself and Mayor both alive in the Mountain West, both with Boise State. Nate went out on a limb a little bit, took Fresno, just not enough from those boys. Nate and Mayor alive in the MAC with Miami, reeling off those 7 straight wins to get into a rematch with their rivals, Ohio. Toledo let me down. They're going to be pallbearers, this Toledo football team, at my funeral, so they can let me down one more time before I go. Love that line.
You do love that line.
We were way off on Sunbelt. Mayor and Nate both had Texas State. I had App State, similar to Big 12. We just weren't alive there. And then I believe I'm the only one with any sort of hope in the CUSA. I have Jacksonville State.
Wow.
And yep. And I can't see what I think both the boys.
Liberty
Bibbity had Liberty. So I'd say pretty good. All those would have been plus money going into preseason. So there's some, obviously more profitable than others. I think maybe Boise was the only one right there. Would probably be the shortest odds of anything still alive. I think it was like plus 135 or something preseason, if I can remember correctly. But anyway, I thought that was a really good showing. I thought all of our coverage and work that we put in is a reason why you should start listening to us before the season starts. Obviously, whichever your favorite personality, there's a lot of teams still alive for a preseason championship pick.
Yeah, pretty pleased with the results. Overall, this is definitely a podcast in the green, if you will.
All right, so let's get into our top 25. Why don't we?
Yep.
Take her away.
So, top 25 for wagers on campus week of December 2nd rankings. Our top 5 cumulatively between me, Burns, and Nate. We got Oregon at 1, Texas at 2, Notre Dame at 3, Penn State at 4, Ohio State at 5. I'll stop there. What do you think of our top 5?
Yeah, I think it's crazy how after just everything that's happened this season, if you recall week 3, after Notre Dame loses to NIU, we're talking about, does a one-loss Notre Dame team get in to the playoff? And they're all the way up to number 3 from all the chaos that's unfolded below them. So that's a big time bonus of not playing in a conference, I guess, why they don't join. But overall, I think the chips fell where they may. I think Ohio State's appropriately ranked after that embarrassing loss. And I think Penn State, Oregon is a good spot to play out on who gets the top seed, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, I agree. I still don't think Penn State is. Just Penn State makes me want to puke. But they've had a good year. So see at 6, Georgia at 7, SMU at 8, Indiana at 9, Boise State at 10. I think Tennessee closed out their season very strong. It was good to see their offense come to life. Georgia, I think they are appropriately ranked, but man, are they not looking all that impressive? And just they don't look like the Georgia that we're accustomed to seeing over the last couple of years. That's for sure. SMU at 8, pretty high, but deservingly so. They've had just such a outstanding season. Same with Indiana at 9. Indiana, after losing to Ohio State, just goes out and beats Purdue 66-0, just to eliminate any potential doubt about them. They are a legit team. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. They're good. They deserve to be in it, and I think the ranking is appropriate. Boise State at 10. Boy, that's a team that is not playing their best football right now, but just seem to be hanging on to a thread. But they've had a good year. So that is 6 through 10. And then Arizona State, South Carolina, Alabama, Iowa State, Ole Miss, and then 16 through 20, Clemson, Miami, UNLV, BYU, Illinois, and then 21 through 25, Colorado, Army, Mizzou, K-State, and Syracuse. Also receiving votes, Memphis and Louisville. So that's our top 25. South Carolina, man, they are playing some really awesome football right now. I feel like it's a shame that we're probably not going to see them in the college football playoff. I'd love to see South Carolina get in because I think that they are just, like I said, playing really outstanding football at the moment. Where do you want to take it from here, Burns?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we are true blue ball knowers, and this prick Ward Manuel or whatever his fucking name is, he looks like a chode, just bald headed college football committee lead. I mean, South Carolina is dead. Ole Miss is dead. He already said it. He said the teams that aren't playing this weekend will not jump another team that isn't playing this weekend. So all the hopes and dreams of those teams have been crushed. Listen, in their rankings, they're supposed to abide by head to head, but also there's a key contributor here. Uh, Basically, the gamesmanship of was there an absence of a player, coach, or any sort of outside factor that affected a team. Taking the Florida State rule last year, Jordan Travis, but this year, listen, everyone with two eyes that watches football knows South Carolina is a playoff team.
Yep.
Lenore Sellers was out with Lenore Sellers. Without Lenore Sellers, he was out of more than half of that LSU game. That was a terrible call, even even without him playing, still had a chance to win. But that terrible call calls it back. But he wasn't playing. I mean, that game, they are dominating with him playing to start that game. LSU can't stop him, as we see later in the season. That was a big miss on us, by the way, not going back and seeing that LSU game. Running quarterback dominates would have been a little hindsight to Alabama and Texas A&M, but that's neither here nor there. So throw that out the window. So now they're sitting 2 legitimate losses. I get it. It's against both the teams that they're competing against. 2-point conversion away against Bama. Bama lost to 2 6-6 teams. Got embarrassed 2 weeks ago. I mean, South Carolina just beat a team that's possibly the ACC champion. It just, yeah, there seems to be a bias. They left it a little too open. I'd like to see them constrict their evaluation. Ohio State might be the odd man out, but even like setting a cap on conference, I know they would never do that. But I'm a big proponent of South Carolina's the best team out of Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina.
Yeah, they look great. Um, Iowa State, Arizona State, the winner of that is going to get into the playoffs, which, there's going to be a lot of people who complain, and I understand it. Like those two teams don't appear to be national championship contenders. But I will say for the people who want things to be interesting, you got your wish. I mean, Iowa State, it's been forever since they've won a conference championship. And then Arizona State, man, first year in the Big 12, and they are literally competing for the title. So definitely a little bit of a change up there. Miami, they really screwed themselves losing to Syracuse. They were in the driver's seat and controlled their own destiny and blew it. So can't really feel too bad for them. And UNLV just kind of lurking at 18 in our rankings. If they beat Boise State in the conference championship this weekend, they will likely get into the college football playoff. So a lot of interesting things here. But yeah, man, that's what I
Yeah,
got.
so our buys, we have, as of now, games haven't been played. Oregon 1 seed, Texas 2 seed, SMU would be the 3 seed, Boise State would be the 4 seed. So I think we both agree the next seed would be Notre Dame at number 5. Everything holds
Mm-hmm.
pat.
Yep.
So with that being said, I mean, do we think South Carolina? I think we basically know now before we filled this out, it's going to be Alabama, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's going to be the case because Bama has, went head-to-head win over South Carolina.
Yep. And then 6 seed. So this is the interesting argument that that is going around. So Penn State loses to Oregon. They would now have losses to Ohio State and Oregon with no big wins. Meanwhile, Ohio State sits there with wins over Penn State and Indiana, 2 top 10 teams, and their only losses being to Oregon and Michigan. Combined score of 4 points in losses. Does Penn State fall one below Ohio State? Um, I want to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, Ohio State literally beat them head-to-head, and
Yeah,
your point is correct. I mean, Ohio State, for as disappointing as the Michigan game was, which we'll talk about here in a minute, Penn State, you're right. Their best win of the season was USC on the road or hosting Illinois, whereas Ohio State beat Penn State in Penn State Stadium and then also beat Indiana, who I believe is a very good team. So it's not crazy.
yeah. So that would lead us to believe that they're going to play Arizona State, right? If we're going to think Arizona State wins,
Say that again.
that would lead us to believe that they're going to play Arizona State in a 6-11 matchup. If we think Arizona State wins,
Yeah.
and so Georgia losing to Texas, would they stay above Penn State in the current rankings, or is Penn State getting that 7 seed?
Um, I think Georgia would fall below Penn State if both teams were to lose this weekend.
Yeah. Yep. And so Georgia then, I believe, and so we would have Penn State in Tennessee hosting Tennessee, and then
Yep.
Georgia hosting Indiana.
Whew. Sign me up.
Yeah, Tennessee going to Penn State would be the easiest lock. I mean, I'm a fade James Franklin guy, but I'm a bigger fade Tennessee in any sort of adverse conditions.
Huh. This Tennessee team's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's fair. So the only chaos scenarios I'd like to run by you: Clemson wins, SMU stays in. As of now, I mean, they said they can't. They're not looking to punish conference champions, and SMU without a conference championship, they're number 8 in the current poll. Clemson wins. Is SMU in?
Yeah. Yes.
I think the only way they're out is a Ohio State-Wisconsin scenario in 2014. Ohio State beat Wisconsin 59-0. I think if Clemson roasts them with a crooked number over 6 scores, maybe you talk about, because they had a pretty weak schedule. That's why we like their over at the preseason. But I think we'd have to agree it's got to be like close to 96, 95%, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I would agree with that.
Okay.
I agree.
Iowa State wins again. This one I wrote wrong. I saw ASU at 12. ASU is actually not 12 in the current standings, so we don't have to worry about that. Basically, it's a win and in for those two teams. But here's an interesting one that could never see coming. They've been ranked in the top 12 actual standings for the last 4 weeks. Boise State is number 10 in the country. So they're not just the highest group of 5 team, they are number 10. If UNLV wins, Boise State already beat UNLV and lost to Oregon by 3. Dare they give the Mountain West 2 bids to this first playoff?
No, sir. That's not happening.
I mean, that's bullshit, in my opinion. 1-1 against a team? It's tough to beat a team twice.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. But you and I both know that is not happening.
That's fair. And Mountain West does give a home game. So that tournament or that conference championship will be on the blue turf, hosting these climate controlled guys from UNLV that play in a dome. So I couldn't blame anyone but Boise if they lost at home with everything tilted their favor, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So the only way Alabama's out is Clemson wins, in our opinion.
Yes. Agree with that. Even though I wish it was South Carolina.
I know. So that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting for sure. And then, man, the scenarios if Clemson won, basically it would either be them or the Big 12 championship at that 12 seed, and all hell would break loose if Penn State won and Oregon has to move, and then everything, all these Tennessee fans talking shit to me already. This is far from being completely set in stone on what the matchups are going to be.
Yeah, 100%. And as far as Tennessee fans talking shit to you, I'm sure that you can probably handle that fine for now. Have you had any Michigan fans talk shit to you?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into it, Mayor. That's a great segue. The shit talking has been quiet because why wouldn't it be? The amount of self-embarrassment and just self-loathing weighs enough that celebrating in silence is the loudest form of shit talking that you can hear. When I hear, when I'm with Kurt's dad on the next day, he tells me, my son texts me, great day in college football yesterday. That's the only thing he texts me. Said that his son is a Michigan fan, for those listening. Anyway, let's get into the game. All right. I, wanted to just exude a lot of bravado leading up to it. In the back of my mind, there was always this chance. And as much as I hate losing, I love being right even more. And there's some arrogant people that love to chirp at me when I start piping up, when I start talking. But all season, no one in this room, no one on this, it's other group chats. All season, Indiana game, we're talking about one figurehead, and that's Chip Kelly running this Ferrari offense into the ground, basically running it like he's got keys to a PT Cruiser, is how he's driving this Ferrari of an offense. He had 18 running plays between the tackles for 19 yards. He had 5 plays on the swing routes, on the outside tackle, off tackles for 24 yards, and then one swing pass behind the line for 19 yards. They didn't throw the ball in their 33 pass attempts down the field 20 yards once. They were handing the ball off on draw plays on 3rd and 8. I mean, this was over a little bit into the 3rd quarter. This was a wave the white flag. You guys beat us. It was truly stunning. I mean, I was left speechless. There was no anger in my heart. There was nothing there. I mean, Michigan, you and I both talk ball all the time. But we've never been on the sideline. We've never coached any plays. But you and I could have walked into the Ohio State facility and handed them a game plan of what Michigan's going to do. They threw the ball for 60 yards, 6-0. They were going to run that ball all the time. They only scored one time, got in the end zone one time on a 3-yard drive. 3-yard drive. So the defense for Ohio State did everything they needed to do, held them to 13 points. If you're telling Ohio State on Friday before the game that you're holding Ohio State under 300 yards, 13 points, and they cannot change their game plan, you would think Ohio State covers 20 easily. Easily. There's a lot of character issues on this team, but it starts at the top. Ryan Day, as much as I'd like to blame him, I know it's Chip Kelly. I saw it. Everyone saw it. I mean, you just kept questioning. I had to bet team total over. Knew that was dead, even at halftime. This series has been close at half the last 20 years, and then the winning team is typically pulled away in the second half. I knew it wasn't sniffing that. At the end of the day, it's got to be accountability. It can't just be on the players because they execute what they're told. And it doesn't matter when it comes to Michigan or it comes to Ohio State, when it comes to any bad team, when you've got boys in the trenches that are playing on Sundays for 10 years, like Michigan did this last Sunday, that record doesn't matter. They don't have any say in what the final score is going to be. They're just going to muck it up and give their team a chance, and that's exactly what they did. It's exactly how you win as a 20-point underdog. And if I'm a betting man, which I am, I'm not comfortable with my Ohio State 4-1 national championship ticket.
How much do you blame the players, despite everything that you said about Kelly and his play calling?
It's tough to blame any of the players. I mean, very, very happy with the defensive play. I mean, this is what Ohio State's done all season. They bend, don't break. They created 2 turnovers in the red zone, that turnover on downs, and then that interception. And then it's just like Will Howard gets knocked out of the game. He comes back in. The crowd is pumped. He's jumping up and down. And Chip Kelly, you'd think just like all this momentum that could exist, you think it'd be like, let's isolate Jeremiah Smith. Let's throw it to him. They hand it off. It's a halfback slam right up the middle. Like on the next play, Howard comes in, and then not finding a competent kicker at top 3 program in the country it's not just this kid. It's been the last 10 years. They haven't seen a kicker since Nugent come through those doors that can be relied on. That's a throwback name for Sunday ball watchers.
Oh yeah, Michael Nugent, aka Mike Nugent. So do you still think your boys got a legit shot to win the title?
So here's the only thing I can compare it to. When they got in 2 years ago, losing to Michigan, both teams undefeated, and both teams got into the playoff. Ohio State plays Georgia, dominating Georgia the entire game. Marvin Harrison gets knocked out with a cheap shot, no targeting, whatever, revisionist history. That team came out. It's like they have to hear all this. The coaching staff has to hear all this embarrassment. They came out and they played a completely different style, like balls to the wall. So I expect that to happen in the first round. They'll get a home game. A rematch with Oregon. I don't know. Texas defense right there with Ohio State's defense. I don't know. There's not many teams left that I'd say should be truly scared of Ohio State.
Yeah. And do you think people who say that Ohio State losing to Michigan is a bigger deal, even if Ohio State goes on to win the national championship, that them losing to Michigan means a failed season? Do you think those people are clowns, or do you hear what they're saying?
No, I do not believe that. They are clowns. A national title would be on the first year of being, they would have to go through they'd have to get 4 W's, 4 playoff wins would be, I mean, one of the best seasons of all time. I would just hear the chirps from Michigan. They beat the national title. They beat the national. This is what it would do. Ohio State wins the national championship this year. It starts a domino effect. Now they have the most recent national championship, the first ever 12-team playoff. There's 300 and maybe just 300, maybe 290 days until that Saturday after Thanksgiving. That now there is no national championship is our ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to embarrass that team up north. National championship would take away all the pressure of all other outside factors, and that's it. I'll say this. The last thing wrapping up is that, say what you will, there was a change, and we've seen this. If you are a guy that's been bullied or is bullied, you know these things exist. Whether you want to admit it or not, these guys are getting paid millions. It doesn't matter. When you get a nickname like Crying Ryan or Born on Third Base, it's over. Once it gains traction, like once Crying Ryan hits and you lose 4 in a row, I'm sorry, it's over. Like that's just the rules of the playground. Like there's no coming back from it. This was your only chance to at least start coming back from it. Harbaugh's gone. Crying Ryan exists. He's just but in this new day and age with this buyout shit, man, I would love to be so bad at my job and just have a buyout waiting there for me to is the only reason I'm not fired. That system is crazy. Going forward will need to be addressed.
Yeah, man. Just pocket a 20 or 30 million or sometimes more with these
Jimbo,
guys.
40 mil, worked 1.5 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's however you say that word, unfathomable.
What are your thoughts, outsider? Let's hear it.
I didn't get to watch as much of the game as I would have liked to because I was driving home to Nashville from Illinois. So I had the game on my phone and I was listening to a lot of the audio. Look, I'm not absolutely stunned. I'm surprised, but I'm not stunned. The reason why I say I'm actually a little bit more, I guess, stunned, if you will, because if you're like Mayer, how could you not be stunned? Ohio State was a 21-point favorite or a 20-point favorite. Is that when I was listening to these Ohio State alums and the TV people before the game, like Herb Street and others, they were like very convicted on Ohio State just rolling Michigan, like every single one of them. The only people who gave Michigan a chance were Desmond Howard and Charles Woodson, who both went to the school. So that's not a surprise. But everyone else really felt strongly about Ohio State taking care of business, including a tidbit I heard about the guy from Dude Perfect spoke with Tom Brady the week before the game, and Brady basically, in so many words, said Michigan's in trouble. And then for Michigan to come out and do what they did, when they beat Northwestern 50-6 the week before, I think I brought it up on the pod. I was like, that doesn't mean I expect Michigan to go and beat Ohio State, but 50-6 is 50-6, and Northwestern isn't Purdue. So that did open my eyes. Possibly, like, okay, maybe Michigan's starting to round into form here and play some better ball. Turns out that was the case. But your point about Ohio State only giving up 13 points and 7 of those being a 3-yard drive, that still is factual. Like Michigan's offense did nothing. Ohio State's offense just could not do it. incredibly. Um, just a massive, colossal failure. The only thing that you can say, which is unbelievable news if you're a Buckeyes fan, is that didn't end your season. You actually got to get away with that game and learn a lesson from it and hopefully rebound and have a chance to win a championship, as opposed to like when I had to watch Packers Niners in the snow at Lambeau in 21 when the Niners beat them 13-10. That ended my season. There was no
Yeah.
second chance. You guys get a second chance.
Yeah. Yeah. And without Will Johnson, and seemingly the only drive where they said, let's throw it all over this very beaten up Michigan secondary, the drive right before half to tie it 10-10. They drove right down the field. So that will be the other head scratcher for years to come if they don't make it to the championship or win it all, for sure. And then yeah, seeing news of Urban Meyer showing interest of coming back, and yeah, he didn't leave. He was forced out the last time around. Uh, it's not shocking to see that news. I mean, there's someone from Ohio. People forget Ryan Day's from New Hampshire. He wasn't born into this game. It means more. It just means more.
Yeah. You really want Urban back?
Like he never left.
Wow. And when's the last time he coached there? Like over 10 years ago?
No, 2000. Dave's been there for 7 years. This is his seventh year. So
So, so Urban was like 2017 was his last year. Is that what you're saying?
no, Urban passed the reins to Ryan Day.
That's what I'm saying. So Urban's last year was like 2017.
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought that was longer than 10 years. Mush brain.
Oh man, you don't want Urban, dude. He had a great run. It's over. Time to move on.
I saw an interesting point. I mean, he would take it like a Saban. Basically, he will do anything and knows how to get anything done and bring a little bit of fire back into it for 4 to 5 years and pick a actual successor versus having to be rushed into this let's fire Ryan Day and thrust someone in where we could be back to square one if it's not the right person. So that's the only side of it that I know it's not a long-term solution, but his record speaks for itself. No matter what you think of the guy personally, outside of football, the guy just wins.
Yeah, he does. I just wonder if him being away from the game from a coaching standpoint will have any sort of impact. I mean, he's not getting any younger. He's 60 and he coached Ohio State in 2018, took a couple years off, coached the Jaguars in 2021, got fired in his first year, and has not coached since. So I don't know. This kind of screams Tony La Russa without being 80 years old.
Well, to that Jaguar thing, you can't deny that he still has an eye for talent, if you catch my drift.
Um, no, I don't.
Okay.
But
Okay.
those things go above my head all the time.
Why did he get fired? He's got an eye for talent.
I forget, honestly, Burns.
The picture of him at the bar with his hand on the young woman's.
That's what you were referring to? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
It was one of many things. It was not the straw that broke the camel's back with Urban, but I digress, as an adult would say. What else do you want to talk about before we get into these conference championship games?
Yeah, just one note. Just thank you, Diego Pavia. Man, that first half, what a ride. I thought we were in for a rocking chair. Vanderbilt goes up 14-0 before you even blink. They return the opening kickoff and then score on their next possession. How they didn't cover 11 and a half from up 14 on the scoreboard. You could have got Tennessee at minus 120 right away. So thanks, Diego Pavia, for all those spreads you did cover for us. One game was up all night on Friday. It's back in the Eastern time zone. Can't believe Georgia won this game. Georgia Tech. I mean, I thought that was targeting on that fumble. I guess crown of the helmet just being thrown like a torpedo doesn't count as targeting anymore, but to each their own. They still had many chances. But this has been the hot topic. What do you think about uh, the fact that we watched this in a game that actually matters? I think my decision is made. I hate the 2 point conversion rule.
Yeah, I think I hate it too. Why are we rushing to end the game?
Yeah. If you want to change anything, let's start them both from the 40. Don't give them right in field goal range. Let's make them get a first down. How about that? That seems like a pretty fair overtime. They both get the ball. They both get sets of downs. But 2 point conversion, man, doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. I agree with you fully on that. I mean, I guess do they have it in place because of the TV stuff? Like they don't want these games to drag on and drag into the other time slots for the TV windows.
No, I think it was they're going to hide behind player safety. But I mean, this literally happened one time. They're going to resort back to that Texas A&M LSU game that finished like 73-68 or something. One of those insane score, like both teams were close to 70. That went to 7 overtimes. And I mean, how often does that happen? I mean, the Illinois record. Who did they play? Northwestern.
Yeah.
Or yeah, Northwestern in this 2 point conversion era. I mean, that's the last time we've even seen anything close to this. So the amount of times that it's happening that you're going to these boys have laid it all on the line for 60 plus minutes to then come down to a fucking 2 point conversion play. Yeah, just doesn't sit right with me.
What would be your solution? Like if you had the power to make the rule however you want it to be.
I'd say just move it back every start of new overtime. Start at the 25 each team, and then if both teams score, move it to the 35. Both teams score, move it to the cap it at the 45-yard line. And then, I mean, you should find a winner pretty quickly in that. I doubt it would get back to the 45 more than a couple times, if that.
Yeah, agreed. That would be a good solution. I like the idea of just having a 15 minute quarter. And you do a coin flip, and whoever gets the ball first gets the ball first. But you just do a 15 minute quarter, just like a regular quarter.
Yeah.
And then if it's tied after that, then you just have the kickers do a kickoff.
Man, talk about these kids in college already not cut out for the pressure. And then you're possibly talking playoff advancement only on the kicker.
Right.
No, anything's better than both of those are much better than what we currently have. So hopefully that'll get addressed in the off season.
Yeah. I thought Texas' performance against Texas A&M was very impressive. Outside of the blunders that they made, just kind of inexplicably, gifting Texas A&M a pick six, and then getting the punt blocked in the fourth quarter to almost get A&M back in the game. Thankfully for Texas, their defense made a goal line stand to keep that at a 2-possession game, which ultimately ended up being the final score, 17-7. But Texas really just looked like a team that controlled the line of scrimmage and still has more to give on offense. Like Texas easily probably should have won that game like 31-3, as opposed to 17-7. So I thought that was a really good showing by them.
Yeah, you're gonna kill me for saying this. Don't ruin the sanctity of college football legends. But this Texas team is starting to remind me of that first Florida national championship team where Chris Leak was the leader. Tebow was there running, scat plays and definitely a part of this offense. With what we just saw last week, they clearly want to get Arch Manning involved. I mean, he looked really good on the ground, that incredible run. I could see them now unraveling it's not technically a two quarterback system because Arch can throw it, but he's in there for specific plays. I'm Texas has moved to number one on my big board for best odds to win the national championship.
Yeah, and they were saying it on the TV when Arch scored his touchdown. Like they were saying how the players gravitate towards him, like he just has a certain energy about him, and you could see it. Like he just like the way he looked and how the players are reacting. They love that guy. So I think he does give them an extra element, and now you're starting to see it in big games. And I was trying to ask myself, who does he remind me of when he runs the football? And you'll chuckle at this, but I say it as a compliment. He looks like Daniel Jones to me when he runs the ball.
Oh,
Um, and like I said, that's a good thing because Dan Jones is a good runner. Um, just like physical, tough, pretty fast. He broke that tackle to get to the pylon. Like that was an impressive run.
that's
Um,
fair.
so I was impressed with Texas. And what else? Just
Notre
looking
Dame,
here.
the I mean, it felt like watching a replay. It was just on the side, but those back, they had two 99 plus yard pick sixes that helped them
Yeah, it
cover.
did feel like a replay.
It felt
I thought the
like it
same
was
thing in real time.
same side of the field, like same. It felt like USC was like at the same yard line they threw it. That's only happened three times in 100 years at Notre Dame. A pick six over 99 yards. Did it twice in the same game.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. They've been impressive all year long. This was not an easy game, despite what clowns might want to tell you about USC just kind of being average, which is true, but like this is still football. You still have to like go out there and play the game
Yeah,
on the road against your rival in California. And although it wasn't sweat free, they definitely did enough to get the job done. And Notre Dame's just been kicking everyone's ass over the last
yeah.
8 weeks.
I will say though, we called it out last week. USC does have dudes. They have the best wide receiving core that Notre Dame had seen. We issued some sentiment about being concerned about that, and they were able to drive up and down the field and do whatever they wanted with them. So maybe that's a wake up call, or maybe it's a weakness we haven't been able to see evaluating going forward. But there's a couple teams like Ohio State and Oregon that could maybe eat this secondary alive. Well, Ohio State is dependent on play calling, but yeah, that's something that I kind of put in my back pocket for when we look at who they play in the playoffs.
Yeah. I hear you. And then as far as Syracuse beating Miami, man, I felt that in my loins, like I was going to be upset at myself if I didn't at least sprinkle on Syracuse money line before the game, which I did. And then they got down 21-0. And I was like, you are such an idiot. Um, but turns out I was right. Syracuse came back and got the big win against
that in,
Miami.
that internal monologue is priceless. Your
Yeah,
team just goes down like I an idiot if I don't place this bet. Immediately down three scores.
exactly. We've all been there.
Yeah,
um,
it's. I mean, everyone and their mama was on Syracuse plus 10.5. That's why I ended up pulling it from my card. I was just like all these big names that you see on Twitter that are like known for losing. Everyone's on Syracuse. It can't possibly come through. And yeah, I mean, Miami is basically proving, right where Ohio State is now is, I think, completely opposite, where Miami can score as much as they want, but the helpless feeling of the defense not being able to get off the field, I think, is a worse feeling than your offense kind of sludging around, but still in the game no matter what because your defense is so good.
it is. As a Packers fan, my whole life with Rodgers in the 20 in those 2000s years, it definitely is. When your defense can't make a stop, it is a terrible feeling. And then the
Last
other
night,
game,
oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to shout out. This is kind of a random game that won't be talked about, but Arizona State beating Arizona 49-7. Wow, what a performance! I know Arizona stinks. The line was only about 8 points, and Arizona State covered that by, you know, a lot. 49-7 was the final. Impressive. A lot of teams, Burns, would have gone into that game and pooped down their pants and blown it. Arizona State said, absolutely not. Screw that. We are going to hammer them and take care of business. So I give them a lot of respect and a lot of props for doing that.
On the road. And, I mean,
Mhm.
that game was 9.5 when we talked about it. Got down to 8, like you said. So, clearly some money believing in Wildcats keeping it close. But there's no love lost, like we talked about. Arizona only 2 years ago beat them 70-7. So, as someone that was on the over, I appreciated them keeping the foot on the pedal because Arizona they're in trouble.
Yep.
Last thing I wanted, the only last thing I wanted to say is, man, Florida, what a season of what could have been. Lagway goes from the very jump because he is definitely going to be a top 5 Heisman contender next season. And that team, we don't know what they'll do in the offseason yet or what transfer portal is going to hit. But as soon as Napier got we're good to go, it seems like they just hit a hyperdrive, and they are a physical team that you will not want to see them at home. I think Florida is going to be a big contender next year to actually make some noise.
So I agree with you about Lagway and Florida being a contender. Where I disagree is that Florida was ready. Like, had they just played Lagway on day one, I don't think we'd be having a different conversation because I feel like I'm trying to pull up their schedule. I'm just trying to find
Opened with Miami.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if their record would be much different, but he would have maybe that middle season, he would have more experience under his belt right away. Is my only argument there.
Yeah, but like when you watch him play now, like I think you'd probably agree. Like I'm not concerned about his experience at this point. Like he
Yeah,
looks polished. He looks like that dude right now. It just took him and the team a minute to figure out who they are, in my opinion.
100%. Yep.
All right. Well, that was fun. Let's get into week 15 conference championship week. So let's do it. We will start with Conference USA on Friday night. We got Western Kentucky at 8-4 taking on Jack State, who is also 8-4. The line, what are you showing?
3.5,
4.5 for Jack
four and a
State.
half. Yeah, 4.5.
4.5. Over under 57.5. This is 6:00 p.m. CBS Sports Network. So you picked Jack State to win the whole conference before the season started. Are you sticking with your prediction?
Yes, but I'm not sure I like 5 or 4.5. The rare, which we'll probably see more in the future, but these teams just played last week. Western Kentucky won on to get into this conference championship. They were at home. Western Kentucky was on a 54-yard walk-off in the CUSA. How about that?
Wow.
Yep. And so now Jacksonville State gets to host down in Jacksonville, Alabama. And the last 2 times they played, 1917 this last week, 19-17 the score, not 1917 the year, and then 20-17 last year. And both of those over-unders were in the 60s. This over-under is 58. I think we just have to go with history. These two teams play each other tight, know each other well. 58 is way too many points. I like the under in this game. I think it's a field goal game again, as the last 2 were.
Um, yeah, I think that's pretty solid handicapping. What do you make of Jacksonville State? Looks like against Western Kentucky last week, they ran for 229 yards. Very good. They only passed for 99 yards as a team. They were 7 for 17 for 99 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. And you're like, well, maybe the weather was bad or whatever. But Western Kentucky threw for 321 yards. So
Yep.
what's the deal?
That's just the 2 identities of these offenses that Western's always going to want to throw. Jacksonville State's going to want to be more physical, but also up tempo in the Rich Rod style offense. If you remember his West Virginia heydays, and even his most recent stints in Arizona, he's going to want to spread you out and kind of do this run, like running east and west and then getting upfield with athletes.
Yeah. I like the style that Jack State plays in this type of game, and then them being at home. I think it bodes well for a team who wants to run the ball versus a team who wants to throw the ball, especially if they have to play in back-to-back weeks, just because running the ball fundamentally is easier than passing the ball. Um, I'd lean Jack State minus the 5, and I would agree with you. I'd go under the 58. Um, Anything else you want to add to that one?
No.
All right. Moving on, but sticking to Friday, we'll go Tulane versus Army. This is the AAC championship game. Tulane, Army. We got Army as a 5-point underdog in this one, and the over/under is 45.5. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I am very conflicted here. So, like we did with Notre Dame, we kind of evaluated that game. We wanted to bet Army, but at the end of the day, like Army's schedule is just so light, and when they play actual football teams that are going to hit you in the mouth and can score quicker, you get concerned because only 3 weeks ago Tulane beat Navy 35-0. However, here's my one possible leveling the playing field. That game was 60 degrees at Navy. Tulane plays in the South. They play in Louisiana. They haven't played in cold. It's going to be 24 degrees in New York, and you have to tackle a tri-wing, most physical offense you'll see. We all agree Army is better than Navy this year, a little more physical. This particular game, with how cold and ugly it could get, I also wonder, losing to Memphis last week is all but eliminated Tulane from sneaking in if Boise lost as a group of 5 playoff contender. They are now basically dead in the water. And Army, 11-1, maybe UNLV wins, and all of a sudden, who's better, UNLV or Army? Maybe Army has a chance to get in the playoff. So all of that to say, I like Army with the points, and it's probably going to bite me in the ass because the numbers are staring at me right there. This team beat a Service Academy 35-0 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a good handicap by you, though. Like, this is Army's outside of their Army Navy game, but just in a different context. This is Army's biggest game, certainly in our lives.
Yeah.
Like you said, the chances of them making the playoffs is probably less than 1%, but there is a chance. There is a chance. That place is going to be absolutely juiced for this
Big
game.
Time.
And that's a good point that you made about Tulane having to go play in the cold. So I like the angle. I think it's a really good angle. Sometimes you just have to throw the numbers out the window and just kind of go with narratives like that. So I would agree. Any thoughts on the total?
Well, if Army keeps it in the number, it's going to have to be under because they're not going to win a shootout with this Tulane offense. So that would be my lean but that would be me on Army.
Sure. All right. Moving on. Another 7 p.m. game on Friday for the Mountain West Championship. We got UNLV taking on Boise State. The winner of this game will very likely make the college football playoff. We have Boise State as a 4-point favorite at home. The over/under is 58. It's very likely going to be chilly in Boise on Friday night. Let me just pull that up out of curiosity. Friday
I think
night.
it's low of 28, but clear. No snow, possibly.
Sure. Yeah, we're looking at about 34 degrees at kick. So yeah, Burns. I mean, UNLV, first time these two teams played each other, Boise State won by 5 on the road, 29-24. They were a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Now they play this game in Boise, and they're only a 0.5 point more favorite. Now they're 4-point favorites. However, Boise State hasn't really looked all that impressive over these last 3 or 4 weeks in particular. You can see a team that just is not executing at at the highest level right now. So what are your thoughts in this one?
Yeah, obviously this was a good game last time they played. I was able to cash in on Boise being down with a little live bet when they met, but Genty was held to 130 yards rushing, but on 33 carries. So you have to wonder in colder elements, in that game they were able to, throw the ball with Genty not moving as much, averaging less yards per carry. Now that it's going to be significantly colder, have to wonder the same for UNLV. I'm stumped by this line, Mayor, but everything that you just said, this is a feel it in your loins. I've had a few of these games, Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas. It feels like Boise State is finally they're going to come in, dominate this game, end all the talk, chatter, and they're going to go into that bye into the college football playoff. They cover the 4. I think they win 38-17.
It's funny you say that because I thought you were going to be going in a different direction. I would go with UNLV to cover the number and to win outright in this game. The number one thing I'm concerned about is UNLV's ability to play in the cold weather here in Boise since they play at the Raider Stadium. But you're looking at a UNLV team who, in their last game, they ran for 352 yards at 8.6 yards per carry against a bad Nevada team. The week before that, they ran for 207 yards on 65 carries. So yes, I'm aware that the 3.2 yards per carry average isn't going to get it done, but that is an insane amount of rush attempts, 65 carries, and then the game before that they won 41-20, and UNLV had 47 carries for 253 yards. When I see a team that is getting that many carries a game and is just dominating on the ground, being physical, in addition to playing pretty good defense, that's usually a recipe for a team that I do not want to play. And I guess you could argue on the flip side that Boise State has Genty and, they'll look to do that. But UNLV seems to have a little bit more of a team-oriented effort around that rushing attack right now. Burns, I'd like to take Boise in this game, but from what I've seen from them over the last few weeks, they're just not a team that's showing me a lot of buying signs. So I'm going to go the other way here. I'm going to take UNLV to cover the number.
So, yep, always tough to beat a team twice. 188-185, UNLV rushing, Boise State rushing, first appearance. Only one turnover by both teams combined. And 394 Boise total yards, 367. So maybe I'm just relying on home field. I will say these teams are pretty evenly matched. My gut would be more on just one team being on the doorstep and just kicking it down. That's it. Otherwise, I totally agree. They're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to Saturday, we will start in the MAC and defer to our MAC expert. We got Ohio University taking on Miami of Ohio. The spread in this game is 1.5 in favor of Miami of Ohio. This game, as usual, will be played at Ford Field, 11 a.m. Central Time on Saturday. The over-under is 44.5. Burns, just tell the audience who's winning and what is the total.
Oh, man. This is sad because I want to pull for the Bobcats. But, I just don't think they can keep up passing against Miami's defense when they need it. This is a rivalry game. This is their Michigan Ohio State. This is the Battle of the Bricks. So these two teams already met this season. Miami won 30-20. So the number is at 44.5. So we're only one score away from that number. So when I look at a line, last year Miami took care of business. I mean, this year Ohio is a darling in the MAC. It's shocked that they're here. It's stunning, truly, that they're here. It would be like, let's see, it'd be comparable to, Illinois being right now in the first year of the Big Ten combining, making it to the Big Ten championship. They're not like complete bottom dwellers, but they had a lot of new faces, underdogs. So Ohio making it, they haven't won since like 1968. They haven't won a MAC championship since like 1968. So, all that being said, Miami's the better team. Lee Corso, you. We're taking the Bobcats. They're breaking the tradition. They're breaking the curse. They're winning in Detroit. They're MAC champions for the first time in almost 60 years.
Love it. Supporting Kurt and his dad and all the Ohio fans out there. I don't have an opinion on this game. Didn't watch much of the MAC this year. Miami of Ohio from a distance has seemed to be really, really impressive over the last month and a half.
Yeah.
But
in a total, I'd lean the under. Last year's total, Miami beat Toledo 17-7. So just because it's in a dome doesn't mean points are going to fly off the board. These are two very good defenses. Can be one-dimensional running. So if they can't get the run game going, they're not going to scare you with passing. I would sweat out an under 44.5, as crazy as that sounds.
I don't think that's crazy. I think 30-20 in that first matchup, that does seem a little bit high. Moving on to another 11 a.m. game at Jerry World, just how they drew it up. Iowa State taking on Arizona State. There should be about 15,000 people in the crowd for this one. The spread is 2 in favor of Arizona State. The over-under is 50. My God, this is just a game from a different universe. What a bizarre Big 12 championship game. What do you think?
Dude, I don't know. I've been racking my brain about this game. It seems like the Mountain West, except with a climate-controlled stadium. Like, these teams are very similar to me. I think everyone is going to be on Arizona State, which is fair. I mean, what they've been doing this last 2 months have been very impressive. When we look at common opponents, they both lost to Texas Tech. Good for Texas Tech. That's a wild stat. And
Yep.
then obviously Iowa State lost to Kansas, and Arizona State lost to Cincinnati, where Iowa State beats that Cincinnati team by 17 only 2 weeks ago. And Arizona State just skimmed by Kansas by 4. So when I look at these teams, Iowa State is going to be well coached. They would have preferred to play outdoors. I can bet you that, because their defense has been good when it comes to stopping the pass, but they are horrific at yards per carry and running. And Arizona State has America's darling, Cam Scatabo, who's had 3 touchdowns in the first half of the last 2 games. So I actually like it's not trending my way, so how sharp am I? I just saw this line and I said, how can it be below 50? I like the over in this game.
I do too. I like the over as well. Indoor, climate controlled. I don't think either team's defense is anything to write home about. Like, I think they're fine, but I don't think they're special. Both teams can score points. I agree. I also like the over. And as far as the winner, flip a coin, because I do agree with you. Most people are going to be on Arizona State laying the 2, which makes me want to take Iowa State in a 38-35 shootout. So I don't know. But I do agree with you as far as the over is concerned. Who would you rather?
I was just going to say, this could be a be careful what you wish for in Iowa State fandom. Matt Campbell does win the Big 12 championship and gets them either a bye or gets them an automatic bid to the playoff. Could be his last season there.
True. Who would you rather see? Just you personally in the college football playoff?
That's a great question. I think Iowa State with my Matt Campbell connections, but you can't deny the electricity that Arizona State brings with Dillingham and Scatabo. I would lean Iowa State, but I'm not going to be upset whichever team wins this game.
Yeah, I'd go Iowa State as well if I had to pick. All right, Saturday at 3 o'clock, one of the big games of the weekend. We got Georgia taking on Texas. Texas is a 2.5 point favorite. The over/under is 49.5. This game is played at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, as it is every year. Georgia, Texas, SEC championship on the line. What do you like?
Man, I love Georgia the first time around. Couldn't be more off of them this second time around. I don't know what it is about Texas. I mean, I would have thought just watching that game last week they were going to win 38-7, but their offense can't punch it in, so that's my only concern. Georgia beat them by multiple scores with Beck throwing 3 interceptions on the road, so I am concerned there. However, you think you live, you learn. Kirby is not exactly like a SEC championship collector. Like I think he's 2-4 in SEC championships, I believe, maybe 3-5, 2-4. He's below 500 straight up in SEC championships. So let's not get this like idea. Let's get recency bias that Georgia has just been collecting these because they haven't. Georgia's drives in their first Texas game, 4 scoring drives were like 60 yards or less. So Texas was not doing themselves any favors by giving Georgia shorter fields to kind of score. I like Texas. It's already gone up. I liked it 1.5, like it 2.5. Probably stop at 3, but that's where my head's at. I don't like. Texas will travel well. They have a good alumni. Don't like the SEC championship is just stuck there in Atlanta. I would like to see that move occasionally.
Agreed. I think that's more than fair, especially given that Alabama and Georgia are right there. I agree with you, Burns. I don't know who is going to be on Georgia for people who actually follow ball, which makes me a little concerned about that side of being on Texas. I'm not going to lie to you there because Texas does feel like the obvious side here. And if you want to go back to that first game, the way I see it is that Texas, although they started off the season, whatever it was, 4-0, 5-0 before that Georgia game, they did not really have an identity. And their best win was against Michigan, which was the second game of the season at that point. So early on in the year, I felt like Texas, like I said, did not have an identity, nor were they truly battle tested, where Georgia had the benefit of playing Alabama before going into that game. I can't overstate it enough how important it is for teams to just get tested sometimes. Sometimes your nerves can just build so much because you haven't played in that big game yet, and you just need to get tested, and then you can go out and play the next game with like a different level of confidence and swagger. And I felt like Texas against Georgia was that type of game, and Texas got it out of their system, and it wasn't perfect even from that Georgia game, but now they have been at a point, in my opinion, where they have been building to get to this point. And by no means do I think Texas is perfect or completely solved, because we saw how quickly they can self-destruct against A&M just last week. But if they can just clean up some of the basic stuff, they are right there as a legit team to win the whole thing. So I got to trust what I'm seeing with my eyes. And what I'm seeing with my eyes is a defense that's playing fantastic, a football team that's just playing physical as a whole. And I love to see that from football teams. So give me Texas. I will lay it as well. As far as the over-under is concerned, I would go under the 49.5 because I am buying Texas's defense right now. So that's the way I would play this game.
Love it. Only 51% of the tickets on Texas, so not as lopsided as you think. Yeah.
Wow.
One other thing, when we talk about Beck throwing 3 picks, Texas fumbled 3 times in that game. They will not fumble 3 times this game. Tell me that you couldn't see Carson Beck throwing multiple interceptions this game. You could.
Yeah. Let's not get
Right.
started on Carson Beck.
But you could see him throwing multiple interceptions. Texas is not going to fumbling 3 times in a game is unheard of when it comes to ball security. Like throwing interceptions, quarterbacks, that's here or there. Watch Jared Goff throw 5 and win a game. But fumbling is like a whole different breed. 3 in a game is something you never see.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And on the flip side of that, Georgia, there's just been something up with them, man. I mean, even when you look at the box in that UMass game, UMass was able to run the
Yeah.
ball against them. Like, what's going on?
In that first meeting, both teams didn't even cross 300 yards. So I kind of really like your underplay when you take away these turnovers. You can't expect 7 turnovers in a game from both teams combined. And that still didn't even get over 49.5. Final was 30-15.
Right.
So, yeah, I would see a replica of Texas A&M, Texas. Texas wins 20-13, right?
Yeah. All right. 3 more games to go. Marshall against University of Louisiana Lafayette. ULL is laying 5.5. The over/under is 56.5. This game is at 6:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. It's the Sun Belt Championship at Cajun Field. So who do you like?
Oh, man. That is that's a great one. This is a great question. Louisiana Lafayette has been a darling this year, 10-2. Marshall is on a 6-game win streak, and they've looked good. The last 2 games were away. James Madison, Old Dominion. They've handled business. I don't know. Their coach is getting a lot of buzz to getting hired away to a big name school. So when I look at who's going to be stronger, Marshall 5 yards a clip, where Louisiana can only they're 91st in the country in run defense. So Louisiana is going to be better at passing, top 20 passing defense. But I see both of these teams trying to take it on the ground, and I just like Marshall with the points because of that. I like a close game, and give me Marshall with the points, even though they're on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of got that team of destiny feel at the moment. Maybe I'm just saying that because of the movie, but you're right. They've won 6 in a row. Okay, fair enough. I got nothing to add in this one. Moving on to the ACC championship game, 7 p.m. Saturday. We got Clemson taking on SMU. This game will be at the Panther Stadium per usual. SMU laying 2.5. Over under is 56. Who do you like?
Oh boy, who do I like? I like SMU, but who do I think will win and cover? I don't know. Listen, the one thing I'm trying to wrap my mind around this game is old Clemson, like we've been avoiding all season. Like this team still didn't bring in any transfers. They avoided all this. Every big game that they've been in this year, they've got embarrassed. Louisville, I guess South Carolina, they didn't get embarrassed. They played well in that game, but Georgia, but every big game, they haven't stepped up and played to their full extent. I mean, Pitt, it took a crazy finish to win. SMU dominates on explosiveness. These are 2 very good defenses when it comes to stuff rate. I like the under the most in this game, as boring as that sounds for a primetime ACC game. One thing I didn't realize, I heard this today. SMU is an extremely small school, a very small private school. Their enrollment is like 4,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to have a huge alumni base. The football program has a storied history, but that number traveling, where it's right up the road from Clemson and NFL Stadium, you have to think that Clemson is going to have a huge home field advantage, quotation marks. But, I mean, that being said, Louisville embarrassed them at home. I don't know, Mayor. This has been the toughest one for me to look at. Like, why? I know why Clemson loses, but in my heart of hearts, I just have a feeling they're going to be in this game.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is a home game for Clemson. That place is going to be 80% or more of Clemson orange in the stands. This is such a huge game for Clemson because if they win, or we're basically saying that they make the college football playoff. So the stakes could not be higher. It's a home game. You're right. Clemson has yet to win the big game, but if we're gonna play devil's advocate here, they've gotten closer each time. They got blown out against Georgia, Louisville. They kind of just got their asses kicked, but not blown out. And then South Carolina, who we were talking about, who is a playoff team in our opinion. That's how highly we think of South Carolina. They won on a game-winning drive down the field at the very end of the game. So I don't want to get it twisted. I think SMU is a good ball team. I think Clemson is a good ball team. I think you have two good teams going at it. Do I think Clemson is fortunate to be in the situation that they're in? 1,000% I do. Of course. They hit the lottery by being lucky enough to play in this game. I don't think they really truly deserve it, but here they are. But that's how it ended up playing out. And Clemson at home, basically at night, against an SMU team who already showed earlier in the year when they had to travel to Duke, who is not too far down the road from this stadium in Charlotte. They really, really struggled in that type of environment because SMU has to travel from Texas to the East Coast. It's just a lot of things going against them here. So maybe they'll prove us wrong. But I will say, Burns, SMU being favorited feels like the wrong team is favorited in this game. Feels like Clemson should be laying the 2.5, not SMU.
Yeah, it's this is a prove it or bury it game. Because
Now look,
if
I don't mean to cut you off, but if this
no,
game
please.
was in Dallas, I would be on SMU. Period. But it's not.
Yeah, I just don't know how we can trust Clemson again after this if they go out and lose by 2 scores. It just feels like we're being misled because of the
Sure.
Clemson of old and what they've built up.
Sure. Very, very interesting. Okay. And then the final game, Big Ten championship on the line. Nope, sorry.
That's so mean. What a mean guy you
we
are.
got we got Penn State taking on Oregon. Oregon laying 3.5. The over-under is 49.5. This game is being played in Indianapolis at 7 p.m. On CBS. So Penn State taking on Oregon. What do you think?
Easy. Like Diego Pavia as a road dog or just as a dog. Fade Drew Aller in any game that means something. Oregon minus 3.5 is so easy. It feels like stealing. It's my lock for the week. This game should be 7.5. It's crazy that this is 3.5. Penn State, when the lights shine the brightest, they shrink to the smallest. James Franklin just can't win big games. He's Ryan Day as a Keegan Michael Keel character. It's just so easy to me. I could see it so pure, Alex. This game, Oregon 38, Penn State 20.
I don't feel as convicted as you do. However, I do agree. I do agree that Oregon minus 3.5 is the play. Oregon's been the number one team in the country all year long. The only really only time that you could truly doubt them, in my opinion, outside of really early in the season, was when they played Wisconsin and only won 13-10. But that was a tired football team, in my opinion, who just had a very, very tough scheduling spot. I don't really read too much into that game. They had a bye, came back against Washington, thumped them by 40 points or 30 points or whatever it was. So I agree, but man, I can't wait. Can't wait for the drama. Okay. Well, that is it for conference championship weekend. Um, what's next year?
Well, I think we got to put together some sort of parlay or teaser, don't we? I mean, it would be ironic if we put together a winning teaser with the smallest slate of the since week 0 that we've seen.
Yeah.
So should we just pick all the Saturday games since we have a perfect 6 on Saturday?
Um. Ew. No, we should include the Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what were you eyeing? I'd
Well,
love to get Army to plus 12.5.
that's what I was gonna say. We both agree on that, so let's do that.
Okay, Army plus 12.5. Any what other games stuck out to you on Friday? You liked UNLV, right?
And you like Boise.
It's kind of win running away. All right, we'll put that one in the Rolodex. We might come back to that one.
Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State. Sounds like we like the under in that game, so maybe tease it up.
Yeah, I can go with that. 64.5. Hell yeah.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Okay, Saturday games. Let's stick. I mean, we get Iowa State to plus 9
Or we can tease the total down and take the over.
to uh to 53.5. I think it's at
43 and a
50.
half. 43 and a
Thank you.
half.
Yeah, thank you. 43.5. Yeah, I think that's a good call.
I think so too. Um, you like anything in the MAC game?
I think it's within one score. So if we can get Ohio, which I'm seeing on the book here, is plus 1.5, so we can get them to plus 8. I don't mind that at all.
Okay, Burns. All right.
Okay, plus 8. Clemson, SMU, Penn State, Oregon. The do we
Well, I think
do we do
it's obvious. We tease Texas and Oregon across the number.
yeah Texas plus 3.5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's probably smart. Oh, Texas plus 4. Okay, yeah, we'll take that. We're going across the lines. And then should we just do the under in that game? A double teaser?
No, we should take Oregon because we feel confident.
Man, plus 3 or 2 across the lines. We're gonna get laughed out of the gambling sphere for that. Okay, Oregon plus 3, Texas plus 4, Ohio plus 8, over Arizona State, Iowa State's 43.5, under Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State 64.5, and Army plus 12.5. Oh, Army plus 11. The line is moved. All right, plays 5-1.
Maybe we should substitute Oregon out. I'm starting to feel real weird that Penn State's going to win that game.
Oh no! Oh no! Let's go under in SMU Clemson.
All right, there we go.
You under 62.5. There we go. All right. Unfortunately, no quad box this week. Sad face emoji. Because the games are split up. There will be no quad box until maybe one day in bowl season. I doubt it though. They stagger them usually.
Yep.
So our quad box is dead until we start putting together quad box college basketball parlays. Yes, sir. So we are hot. So what could possibly go wrong? Parlay of the week. So we're already got money to play with, up 10 units on the season. Boise, Jacksonville State, Texas, money line, plus over Arizona State, Iowa State, 45.5, and Oregon minus 2.5, pays 9-1.
Beautiful.
You got a
Let's
card
freaking
put
go.
together?
No,
You
I
got a
don't.
lock? You got a lock?
Yeah. My lock is Texas, 2.5.
All right. That's good. My lock's Oregon, 3.5. My card is Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky under 58. Army +5, Boise -4, Ohio money line, Iowa State, Arizona State over, Texas -2.5 added to the card. SMU Clemson under 56.5, and then of course Oregon lock.
Beautiful. Are we counting these picks towards our overall record, or how are we going about this?
You want me to make a postseason record?
Yeah, let's just do postseason record.
Yep, we'll do that. I'll make a postseason record, and we'll follow along. Let's try and turn some of those profits that we shared earlier in the episode into even more.
For sure. All right, brother. Well, it's always a pleasure for everyone who's listening. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoy your weekend of college football. And good luck with your wagers.
Yep, absolutely. Bye. Love you guys.